The Microsoft can't find the CD, so.
Good evening. It is 7 o'clock on Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. So we'll go ahead and begin the Tooele City Planning Commission meeting here at Tooele City Hall. First thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise and say the pledge with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is our roll call. Commissioner Hammer?
Here.
Commissioner Proctor?
Here.
Commissioner Gossett?
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
I'm Chairman Robinson. I also am here. We want to excuse Commissioners Sloan, Jensen, and Dunn, who are excused this evening. Recognize Mr. Page, Mr. Agard, Mr. Hanson, Mr. Nielsen, Ms. Fairborn, and Council Members Manzione and Hanson, all from the city representing us. Before we get to the next thing on our agenda, just want to make an announcement that there was notices sent to people for an item that was going to be on the agenda that is not necessary anymore. So if you are here about the conditional use permit for a daycare preschool for Banks Playhouse, we're not going to address that. So you can stay around if you'd like, but you can leave if you're here for that item. And nobody's rushing for the door, so I guess you guys are here for other things. So welcome. Next on the agenda, public hearing and decision to consider a request by Kyle Matthews at Old Hickory Building and Shed for a conditional use approval for accessory outdoor sales in the general commercial zoning district at 1094 North Main Street. Mr. Page.
Thank you, Chair. Here's an aerial view of the property on the southeast corner of 11th North and Main Street. And then here is a zoning view showing general commercial, and then to the east is light industrial. So considerations of this conditional use are: one, the size and location of the parking stalls, and two, the placement of the display sheds and storage units. A site plan meeting all city's definitions of a site plan is not a requirement for a conditional use permit. A conditional use permit is an approval of a land use at this location. However, to determine if the proposed land use is acceptable to this location, a type of site plan is needed, showing the size and the number of parking stalls and the location of the display sheds and storage units with separation distances in relation to the current building on site and the adjacent properties and roadways. The applicant has supplied a site plan, and the city engineer has done a good job of reviewing the site plan. And then the applicant just recently resubmitted a site plan that's before us, but staff has not had the opportunity to really review it. The applicant has provided additional information such as a fire inspection report and this revised plan showing some separation distances. Noticing for this public hearing went out to all the property owners with the property highlighted in yellow. No comments or questions have been received from the public. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions: that one, the applicant satisfy code parking requirements like the number and size and location of the size of the parking stalls, and two, that the applicant work with staff in the placement of sheds to protect the 40-foot clear view zone and traffic flow and fire safety. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to address those at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Any questions from the commissioners on this item?
I have a question.
Commissioner Hammer, please.
I may have just missed it. Did you send us the site plans that you just showed here?
No, they just recently came, like yesterday.
Like yesterday?
So
Okay.
we haven't had a chance to really review it. So.
Any other questions for staff from the commission? So did your recommendation change based on that second set of plans that you got?
No, the recommendation changed after visiting with some other members of staff.
Okay.
That we could approve it with these conditions. Staff would feel comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Page. This item does require a public hearing. We will go ahead and open up the public hearing. If anyone wants to come forward and address this agenda item, now is your time.
So I'm not with the public, I'm with Old Hickory Sheds.
Okay, if it's
Is it-
okay, well, let's wait
Oh,
till
yeah,
the
absolutely.
public gets their chance, and then we'll close the public hearing, and then you'll have your chance to give us your spiel.
Absolutely.
Thanks. And that will come really quickly because nobody's coming forward. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and if you want to come forward and let us know your name and put your name on there also, please.
Yes, so my name is Colton Bain, I'm with Old Hickory Sheds, working with Kyle Matthews. After speaking with Kent and looking at the review, the initial process, I just wanted to kind of make it known that we're, satisfying the fire approval, so that's all done. We've even wanted to go above and beyond to make sure, because I know that the building had been unoccupied for a while, and we're just taking a small section of the building for occupancy. Shed sales is a very kind of 1950s traditional style sales. So it's not a high flow traffic industry. On a very good day, our dealer may see 3 customers walk on the lot. I know that sounds silly, but it works for us. So with the fire, I know that there was a discussion of, and maybe I shot myself in the foot on this one, but we're trying to be as good faith and transparent as possible. The fire warden did mention spacing in between the sheds, closer up to the building on the north side. And we absolutely, it wasn't written in the fire inspection report, but we provide spacing anyway because we like to have customers be able to walk around them. So the placements of the sheds are very, very important to us and as well as for the cities to, obviously that 40-foot site triangle is extremely important to us. We don't want any issues there. The reason we do a generic layout is because as we set up a lot, we bring different sizes down to accommodate spaces. So typically in those front sections where we may have an on and off section that the public would travel onto that needs to see out, we'll place smaller sheds further back. So, our goal from the get-go is to not provide any hazards and work closely with the city and make sure everything is done properly. So I just wanted to make that comment. The parking spaces, so there are already a number, I believe it's 6 or 8 parking spaces that are designated on that lot that meet the 9 by 18 foot requirements. When we initially drew up the sizes for the shed layout, it was with basically pushing them to the east. And then once the city engineer reviewed it, he said, the ADA spot may be a little too close backing into another one. So what we can do is accommodate that by shrinking our shed display on that size and just adding an additional spot to the west. So it's a very simple thing, and the parking is actually already there laid out to size requirements. We would just, and then there was 2 in front of the building also, and there was the requirement that we needed just 1 with the spacing in the building, and so that's fine. So I think at the end, that leaves us an ADA spot and 4 additional parking spots, which for our traffic flow is more than enough. We know it is. So I just wanted to kind of make that known that, yeah, we're 100% willing to work with the city in any way and make sure it's set up properly, so.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bain.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions for the applicant from the commission? If not, we'll bring this item back to the commission for any comments, questions, or a motion.
I have a question.
Commissioner Hammer.
On staff recommendation number 2, is this wording strong enough? While I appreciate the applicant's willingness to work with staff and his willingness to want to do the right thing, I'm looking down the road. Like, is this good enough that just says to work with staff? Do we need to set anything more firm? Roger's not here, so.
Probably, I guess the language that we use would bind it, but just putting it in there makes it a part of the conditional use. So
Yeah.
anything
My
you
work
say.
with staff thing is what if they don't if they don't agree on the same thing? Like, Andrew, we've had this lately where the staff has wanted one thing and an applicant has a different idea. That's what I don't want to put us in that situation again.
If I could offer a little insight on that. If you're not comfortable with the way that condition is worded, what you may want to do is identify whatever impact is being generated and then pass a condition stating that the applicant work with staff to resolve shed placement or parking stall place if there are identifiable problems that you can recognize. And then staff can ensure that that is resolved. Really, it comes down to the Planning Commission and how you want to structure your conditions. You are not obligated to use staff's recommendation or staff's model motion. So that'd be my recommendation, is if there's something that you would like staff to resolve and you're comfortable with that, then identify it in a condition.
As long as
that
we're
help?
putting specific things like the 40-foot view triangle and the placement of fire safety, whatever, and traffic flow, if we're defining those things in the motion, that allows them to work with staff in such a way that things become enforceable by code enforcement and by repeated visits like we've done in the past. I don't know that there's anything more than that we could do.
Okay, thank you.
It's similar to our findings of fact, where we're just finding what we can do and what we're going to put in place to mitigate these issues that we're fighting. So
Thank you.
I think it's okay, but
Chair, I actually have a question as well. On condition 1, does that require them, based on that reading, to have 9 parking spots per code versus the 6 or 8 or 3?
Whatever code says that is determined by staff, I think is probably what, as long as,
Yes, as I calculated, it's so many parking stalls per square footage of the building, and that comes out to 9. So,
All right, so is that based on the square footage of the building or the square footage of the space that they're going to be using?
the parking requirement is based on the square footage of the building. It's not necessarily of the area of the building they would be using.
yeah, it's pretty well defined in code what they're gonna have to meet.
Yes. Then I guess my next question is, this second site plan that they've submitted recently, does that include the 9 spaces?
We haven't had a chance. I haven't circulated to the city engineer. We just received it just the other day, so I just put it in this presentation just to let you know that the applicant is working in good faith to try to meet the concerns of staff, and staff would like to work with the applicant to mitigate these issues.
Kent, if you could bring the site plan back up that they did submit. Can we identify the number of parking stalls on that here in this meeting?
Five total, and if code says you need 9, that would require reworking, but code is code.
Yeah, they're showing with this revised site plan 5, that includes the ADA parking.
And that's something that, as you work with staff, Mr. Bain, you'll have to meet code, obviously, so. Regardless of what the site plan thing is, putting a condition to meet parking code seems reasonable to me. Any other questions, concerns from the commission? Kelly, did that satisfy?
No, that addressed what I,
Okay.
thank you.
If not, does someone want to make a motion on this one?
Commissioner, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Proctor.
I move we approve the request for conditional use permit application 2025-044 by Kyle Matthew and Old Hickory Building and Sheds representing Matthews Holding Company LLC to permit the use of accessory outdoor sales and display incidental to the allowed use on the property addressed at 1094 North Main in the general commercial zoning based on the findings and fact and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Okay. There's a motion by Commissioner Proctor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Gossett. Those findings that are in there are also with the two that were mentioned by Kent are in there. Just to be clear. Okay, there's any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
The chair also votes aye. That conditional use permit is approved 6-0. Next on the agenda, public hearing and recommendation to consider a request by Boyd Brown representing Grow Development for a land use map amendment in the general plan for 11.7 acres located at 249 East, 1000 North. Mr. Page.
Thank you, Chair. The property is currently designated as a medium-density residential in our land use map. The applicant is requesting that the land use designation be reassigned from medium-density residential to the light industrial designation in order to facilitate a zoning map amendment to a zoning district that will ultimately permit the construction of a light industrial business park. Here's an aerial view showing the proposed area surrounding, just behind our house, assisted living, into the side of our house, assisted living off of 1000 North. Here's a current zoning of the property showing a sliver of light industrial with the remainder being in rural residential 5 acre. And here's the current land use showing that it's all medium density residential. Interestingly, this is the second time in the past year that a land use map amendment has been requested for this property. The first request was to reassign the land use to high-density residential to make way for residential townhouse development. That application was denied by the City Council due to a lack of water. This request seeks to have the property reassigned to light industrial to make way for development of the property as a light industrial business park, specializing in spaces that can be used for office, warehousing, for smaller businesses. This type of use is commonly referred to as flex space and is very popular for smaller businesses needing a location to start up their enterprise. So the medium density residential it is currently as allows for the zones of R17, R18, and R110, and for single family and two family homes and accessory dwelling units. It does not allow for commercial except for home-based occupations. The proposed land use amendment to light industrial is a complete opposite of the medium density residential. The light industrial land use designation requires that light industrial or industrial service zones, these zoning districts cater to smaller scale industrial activities and heavier scale commercial activities that do not generate significant impacts to neighboring property owners in terms of noise, vibrations, odors, dust, glare, and so forth. The light industrial, of course, it requires the light industrial and heavy commercial zoning, and there's no residential uses permitted other than the rare situations of a caretaker unit. The applicant has supplied this concept plan. It's given just for reference only. It has not been reviewed for ordinance compliance. And then the applicant provides some pictures of some examples of some flex use space that they would like to have on this property. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to address those at this time, and our Community Development Director, Andrew Agard, is here and he's been reviewing this application quite thoroughly. Just in conclusion, that staff recommends that you weigh this land use map amendment according to all the state codes and Tooele City codes, and render a decision in the best interest of the community with any conditions deemed appropriate based on specific findings to address the necessary criteria for making such decisions. And potential topics of findings that the commission should consider in rendering a decision are in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Is there any questions for staff from the commission at this point?
I have a question again.
Commissioner Hammer.
So the city council had denied them previously for lack of water. How is water addressed in this new land use?
It's not so far in this application. I would think that with
Just
flex
only
use, it would be
water.
less than residential use.
Okay.
So one of the considerations in the differences between this application and the previous is the previous application was for residential use. In residential situations, the applicant has to provide the water. In commercial or industrial situations, the city council does have the ability to sell the water if they determine that the proposed use generates an economic or tax benefit to the city. So the difference here is there's an opportunity for the city council to provide the water, whereas with residential, there is not. So that's why the applicant's chosen to move with something that is not residential, but more industrial or commercial in nature.
Thank you, Andrew.
Any other questions for staff? If not, this item does require a public hearing. We'll open it up. If there's anyone in the public that wants to address this agenda item, now is the time to come forward.
Commission. My name's Richard. I live on 1000 North, right down the street from this, and my big concern is we have an abundance of industrial space in this city and county. We've got the depot out there, we've got tons of land where it's just nothing but industrial, where it doesn't impact anything. Why are we trying to take away from future residential area to build citizens of the city for small businesses of the city? That there's been these things posted online for rent for 6 months and they're sitting empty. They can't rent these things for $1,000 a piece. So there's not a need for it, but it seems like this guy's he got rejected for residential. Now he's just trying to do something to make money with the property, and we don't need any more traffic on 1000. It's already way slam packed. And we don't need any more industrial over there. We need it to be a residential area. We have plenty of industrial with the Home Depot area, the Smiths, and all these other big industrial places we're putting in, storage units, everything else. We don't have a need for this over there in that part of town. So, it's not going to generate future wealth for residents of Tooele. It's going to generate future wealth for one landowner that owns these things. So you're taking away from potentially 20 family homes to put in a complex that's going to make one guy really rich. So I would rather have 20 people have generational wealth built by owning homes there than one guy that's just going to own a complex that probably doesn't even live out here. So that's my concern with something like this on 1000 North. Plus the traffic we already have right there getting in and out of this place. Like, you already have people coming to a standstill to turn to the nursing home that's right there. People slamming on their brakes, rear-ending cars. So you guys know that because you just put a light down there on 520 East because of the traffic issue. This is going to make one more spot for people to stop and turn in. So I don't think it's a good placement and be a good use of residentially zoned land. It's zoned residential on a building plan for a reason, because it's not meant for stuff like this or designed for it. So strongly against something like this.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Could I get you to put your name on the little rostrum thing there, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come address this item? If not, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. Is the applicant here? You can take a few minutes to address your application.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it. My name is Jake Hone with Grow Development. We are really excited for this opportunity. My partner, Boyd Brown, actually owns a big portion of this property, and then we are working with the property owner who requested the townhomes. We were under contract to purchase that property from them. Our intent is to do this light industrial project. I appreciate the resident expressing their opinions and concern. It's great to have the public input and have them show out and express their, opinions on the matter. One of the things that we want to do is we feel strongly that this is a great opportunity to transition from the regional commercial towards the residential. So this could be more of a transition type zone. It would be geared towards the smaller businesses, the variation and diversification of businesses. So you could have construction trades, and, from HVAC to plumbing companies. You could have gymnastics studios. You could have, someone running their small retail and housing their inventory in their flex area. And so we really feel like it's a great incubator of economic growth and development that can help supply local jobs and local opportunities for business growth in Tooele City. We are intending to have the majority of the project be for sale, and so these could be business owners that can purchase and own their spaces. So we feel that is, a great opportunity for them to, strengthen their business and strengthen their portfolios. We will likely keep a handful of them for our own investment and rental of the use. And so that is one thing that it's undefined right now, but is our intent. We are requesting your recommendation on this for the land use change. It's not something that would take away from the water use on the residential side, but it would be something that would be able to be utilized on the water from the commercial side in the city code. So I appreciate the opportunity. Are there any questions that you have on the development?
Any questions from the commissioner for Mr. Grow? Doesn't look like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, we'll bring this agenda item back to the commission for any questions, concerns, comments.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I kind of have one for Andrew or Ken, either one. This kind of development, of course, they're showing us what they plan to do, but down the road, light industrial with homes sitting right there, right in the middle, that kind of makes me a little nervous. What kind of things can be put in light industrial that could affect those homes right there? That's what I'm concerned about.
So as the staff report and as Kent mentioned, the light industrial zone caters to uses that are a little heavier commercial and a little lighter industrial. Uses that don't generate a lot of impacts, don't create a lot of noise, glare, and so forth. The applicant was right. You could see a wide variety of uses in there. You could see some contractor storage yards. You could see, gyms for recreation purposes, a wide variety of uses. What you're not going to see in this particular zone would be auto wrecking yards or concrete batch plants or uses that generate a lot of problems, a lot of impacts. So in regards to being adjacent to a residential zone, would this be as favorable as, say, a neighborhood commercial? Maybe not, because it does generate more higher intensity uses than a small scale commercial zone would. But you're not going to get a lot of the heavy uses that you would see in, say, our industrial depot. So yeah, there's going to be some homes that will pop up next to this eventually. That's where we have to determine if this is an appropriate location for this land use.
Then my other one would, light industrial, refresh my memory too, because I remember we just barely put industrial service in maybe a couple years ago. The difference between those two, what can we?
There's not a whole lot of difference between those two zones. There might be a few uses scattered throughout, but they're pretty similar. The industrial service was written in a way to try and provide areas for basically contractors to have places to operate their services out of. But there's not a whole lot of difference between the two of them. When you read through the use table, they're pretty similar.
Thank you, Andrew. Tyson, good. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Andrew hit on the key point for me. The light industrial zone is a great tool in our toolbox to bridge gaps between straight industrial and between regional commercial and neighborhood commercial, and it becomes a question of, is this the right place for it? And in my mind, with all the different things that can be put into a light industrial zone, this isn't the right place for it. That's my opinion. Just based on the land use map that's already there, the neighborhood that's there, I would feel much more comfortable with some sort of commercial district there, just so that we aren't opening ourselves up to the heavy end of the light industrial zone going in there allowable because of that zone being put there. That's my comment and my opinion. Having said that now, anybody else have anything to say or questions? And make a motion on this agenda item, if not.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move forward a negative recommendation to the City Council for this fire station business park land use map amendment request by Boyd Brown, representing Grow Development LLC, to reassign the land for 11.7 acres from medium-density residential to light industrial, application number 202-5042, based on the findings listed in the staff report dated May 9th, 2025.
Okay, there's a motion for a negative recommendation from Commissioner Hamilton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Proctor. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, so it's a negative motion, so an I vote means you're saying negative, to be clear. We'll take that to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
The chair also votes aye. That goes forward to the City Council with a 6-0 negative recommendation. Next on the agenda, public hearing and recommendation on some proposed text amendments to the Tooele City Code, all about parking spaces, parking in townhouses, minimal residential dwelling units, and garages. Mr. Agard.
This is a bit of a complicated one, so hopefully I don't lose you or confuse you. If I do, just tell me to stop, and I'll backtrack and repeat it. But there are a handful of ordinances that are involved in this that we need to correct in order to comply with the state of Utah. The state legislature has flexed its legislative muscle yet again, and they're pushing cities around and telling us what to do. And in this case, they're tinkering with the city's parking standards. I like the big muscly guy there. He reminds me of the state legislature. Utah State Code 10-9A534. I'd like to go through really quickly what the changes are that the state is mandating, and then go into how we're proposing to resolve those. The first thing the state is doing is they are redefining affordable housing. They now define it as being 80% of the county median home price. Typically, it was 80% of the median income level, but now it seems to be house price. Now, what I don't know is if this just applies for parking purposes or if it applies to housing affordability all over. I don't know. But for now, I'm going to interpret it as meaning this definition of affordable housing applies to parking. Number two, the state is telling us that we cannot require the dimension of a single parking space for a 1 or 2 family dwelling or a townhome to be more than 20 feet long if the parking is unobstructed, enclosed, or covered. So we cannot require 22 feet long garages. They can only be 20. Number three, the state is saying we cannot restrict an unobstructed tandem parking space from satisfying the 2 parking space requirement. I believe an unobstructed 2-car tandem parking space would be 1 car parked in front of the other one. So if you have a garage that's really deep but not wide, you can park 2 cars in it. We have to count that as 2 parking spaces. That's the only way I've been able to interpret this. If you guys have any other ideas, I'd be happy to hear them. Number 4, we cannot restrict a 2-car garage from satisfying 2 parking spaces as part of the minimum parking requirement. So if they have a 2-car garage, we have to count it. Number 5, if a dwelling is owner-occupied and meets the state's definition of affordable housing, a city cannot require a garage for a single-family attached or detached dwelling. So if they come in and they can demonstrate to city staff that they meet the 80% requirement, we cannot require a garage. So. And then number 6 is kind of a repetition. I don't know why they repeated it this way, but they did. If a state requires a garage, it must count the garage spaces as part of the city's minimum parking space requirement. So our current city parking requirements are, for single-family residential, we require 2 parking spaces per unit and 1 20-foot wide by 22-foot deep garage space. Please forgive the typo. That is 22 feet deep. Now, garages can be detached or attached. They don't have to be attached to the house. For multifamily, we require 2 spaces per unit for apartments, 2 spaces per unit for townhomes. 50 of those spaces must be covered parking. And then for guest parking, we require 1 space for every 4 dwelling units. And then a while back, we tried to amend the code to incorporate a garage into the required parking spaces. Jim and I came up with this table. Number 5, unit has a 2-car garage with 2-car driveway. That counts as 3 parking spaces. And the reason we did that, I'll explain a bit later, but we tried to address the garage issue. The state is now telling us that we have to change that. So right now, the red is a 2-car garage, and the blue is a 2-car driveway. So right now, you get 3 credited parking spaces. That's how our ordinance is currently structured. The proposed amendments that we are doing in order to comply with the state requirements is we're proposing an amendment to 7-11A 13-1 to enable all enclosed garage spaces to officially count towards established parking requirement. So if you have a garage, it counts. So that we're amending that table and changing that. So now the parking requirement would be a 2-car garage plus 2-car driveway. You get 4 credited parking spaces. We are also proposing to increase the amount of guest parking requirement from 1 guest space for every 4 units to 1 guest space for every 3 units. This is not a state requirement. This is city staff initiated. If they're going to make us require or permit garages, we want to make sure we have sufficient parking away from the townhome so that people can park their cars and guests can park. Our reason for doing this is this reason. Many people, not everybody, but many people use their garages for storage and they displace their cars. My neighbor does this. He has 2 very nice trucks, never parks them in his garage because it looks like this. People do that. And so if the state's going to make us count these, we need to increase our guest parking. So we're changing it from one stall for every 4 to 1 stall to every 3. I don't know if it will be sufficient, but we got to do something. According to, we're amending Tooele City Code 7-11B. We're adding an exception that says no garage is required for buildings that are owner occupied, priced at 80% of the county median home price. We are proposing amendments to table 14-5. We're adding a footnote that also provides an exception to the garage requirement if they meet that 80%. And then we are also amending the requirement in Tooele City Code 7-11A-13.1 from 22 feet to 20 feet in depth for garages. And those are the amendments that are proposed. We are confident that this will bring the city's ordinance in compliance with the state law. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Mr. Agard. I have a question to start, if that's all right. I noticed we're putting in the verbiage in the city code to mirror what the state has done regarding no garages required for that level. If we don't put that into the code and just leave it as it is, does that state code trump what we have anyway without the inclusion? So, thinking down the road, and this may be just a philosophical question more than anything. If we don't put that in and somehow things change as they always do up on the hill so that garage requirement comes back or is lifted or changed, and we don't have to change our city code again, is that one way to address some of the things that they do for us? Just do nothing and ride out what they do?
That's an excellent question. I can give you an example of one of those, of how we do that. A few years ago, the state outlawed or prohibited us from having design standards on single-family homes. We still have our design standards on the books. They are still there. We did not remove those from the ordinance. We have not amended them. And the reason we had those in there is to try and get maximum compliance from residents to, improve, or not from residents, from builders to improve the homes and to make them so that they're viable and they'll stay, or they're good homes that people want to buy and stay in. But when people come in and say, hey, the state says you can't do that, we go, okay, you're right. The state code does prohibit that, and we will let them move forward without those requirements. Nobody has technically called us on it, but I think the best way to go is to get the code amended and have it compliant with state mandates. That way we don't have to deal with audits or anybody poking around causing problems. So, and we can always amend the code back when we have to in the future.
Pretty much transparency up front then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But you're right, that is one way we could do it. We could keep the ordinance on the books and just wait for somebody to come back and say, hey, the state says I can do it this way, but.
All right, that's just my inherent cantankerous nature speaking. Thank you, Andrew.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments for staff by the commission?
I'm concerned about how many cars this is going to put us back on the road, and during winter months, and code enforcement's going to be busy, plows are going to be busy, and now we have more cars parked in the street, and I don't like that idea.
Yeah, the difficult part is we have no enforcement over people using their garages for storage.
Mm-hmm. And this
Can't
was
touch
a
it.
great alternative before. Say this does not count as your parking if you're going to use it as storage. That's fine. But now they're taking that away. I don't like it.
But now they're saying we have to count it.
Okay.
Commissioner Anderson?
I'm actually pretty familiar with what the state did here. I followed this going through the legislature this year. And their whole thought process was actually home affordability. And requiring to put a builder to put a garage on a house increases the price of the home. We've been complaining the whole time about home affordability. We hear it every day. Reducing the need or doing away with the need for a garage doesn't get rid of the need for parking. But a driveway fixes that. My concern with what you have proposed is, the state is looking at home affordability, and that's why they've done this. And now the city says, well, we're going to increase from one parking spot for every 4 units to one parking spot for every 3. It flies in direct conflict with what the state intention was with it. So.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Andrew. This item does require a public hearing. We'll open it up if there's anyone in the public that wants to come forward and address this item. Now is the time. Hearing crickets, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for any further discussion or a motion on this recommendation.
Actually, can we go back to that slide with the 80%, on that table with the 80% home ownership? Yeah, perfect,
That one?
that one. My question is, with this, as this reads, how do we enforce that if the home is sold and then is rented out? Then suddenly, do we slap a garage on there?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Commissioner Anderson, and I don't have an answer for that because, in my opinion, it's virtually unenforceable.
Yeah, that's really ugly.
It's an excellent point, you're right, but it's virtually unenforceable. Number one, we don't have the staff to do that, and legally speaking, I don't think we could control who rents a house and who doesn't. Roger could probably address it better than I can, but I'm pretty sure we can't touch that.
So this, by making this amendment change, it will bring us into compliance with state code.
Yep.
I love the state. With that being said, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Proctor, it's all you.
I move we file a positive recommendation to the City Council for proposed amendments to Tooele City Code 7-4-4, number of parking spaces, 7-11A-13.1, parking townhomes, condominiums, 7-11B-5, design standards mandatory elements, and Table 4 of 7-14-5, table of minimum residential dwelling unit size regarding the number of guest parking spaces, providing an exception to the garage requirement for affordable housing, defining affordable housing parking for purposes, reduction of garage depth requirements, and making all garage parking spaces satisfy requirements based on the staff report and it be in compliance with the state.
There's a motion for a positive recommendation by Commissioner Proctor. The chair will second that. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer.
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett. Aye. Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That moves forward with a positive recommendation, 6-0. Next, a public hearing and recommendation on another amendment to City Code 7-19-35, minor residential subdivisions regarding minor subdivisions in commercial and industrial zoning districts. Mr. Agard.
This ordinance amendment is a little simpler than the previous one, and this one is staff initiated. From time to time, when I review the ordinance, I find things that just, wonder why it says that, and we need to fix that. And this is one of those. Actually, Kent brought this one to my attention a few weeks back. Our ordinance actually does not permit minor subdivisions in commercial or residential zone, or excuse me, in commercial or industrial zoning districts. It only permits minor subdivisions in residential zones. And as we've been evaluating this, I think the ordinance needs to be amended. So currently, Tooele City Code 7-19-35 states that any subdivision or any residential subdivision that does not involve any dedication of property for public right-of-way, contains no more than 6 lots, and does not involve off-site water or sewer utilities, can qualify for a minor subdivision. Now, what does a minor subdivision do? We have 3 types of subdivisions in Tooele City. We have preliminary subdivision plan, we have final plat subdivision, and then we have minor subdivisions. A minor subdivision combines the preliminary subdivision plan and the final plat into one subdivision review. This saves the applicant money on plan production costs, it saves the applicant time on plan review, and it also saves staff time on plan review as well. We don't have to review the same subdivision twice. So it's a very good tool that the city has in its subdivision toolbox. What about subdivisions in commercial or industrial zoning districts? Now, granted, we're not going to see a commercial subdivision that has 300 lots. That just doesn't happen. But we will on occasion see a commercial subdivision that has 10 lots. A good example of that is the Smiths. When they subdivided that property, I believe they had 8, 9, or 10 lots, something like that. So you can get commercial subdivisions that are a little bit bigger, but most of the time commercial subdivisions are 1, 2, maybe 3 lots. They're very small. Currently, the ordinance does not address minor subdivisions in commercial industrial zoning districts. So even if a subdivision meets all the criteria, the ordinance requires a minor subdivision in commercial industrial zones to undergo a preliminary subdivision plan and a final subdivision plat process, even if there's no road dedication. Okay. So the question I asked is why? Why is the ordinance written that way? And my response is, kind of like that little girl, I don't know. Okay. We handle right-of-way improvements and utilities and dedications with commercial through the site plan process. So we don't need the subdivision to do those things. So there really aren't any identifiable differences between a subdivision of land in residential zones or in commercial and industrial zones. So the fix that I'm recommending is that we just strike the word residential from the ordinance and everything would just read a minor subdivision. That way when somebody wants to subdivide in industrial or commercial zones, they come in, we can automatically state that you comply with that. Where right now, technically they have to go through a significant process for something very simple. So that's the fix that we're proposing. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions for staff on this item? If not, this also requires a public hearing. If there's anyone from the public that wants to come forward and address this proposed amendment to the code, now is the time to do so. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this item back to the commission for any further discussion, questions, or a motion. Okay, the chair will move that we forward a positive recommendation to the city council for the proposed amendment to Tooele City Code 7-19-35 regarding minor subdivisions in commercial and industrial zoning districts.
No, second.
Motion by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Hamilton. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer.
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett.
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That moves forward with 6-0 for a positive recommendation to the city council. That concludes the business we have for public hearings. There's 2 items that require decisions without public hearings. First is on a site plan review request by Howard Schmidt, representing Ledger Cove, to approve a multifamily residential site plan on 15 acres bordering 1000 North and Franks Drive. Mr. Page.
Thank you. Here's an aerial of the property where you have Future Barra Boulevard to the north and Franks Drive to the northwest and 1000 North or SR 112 on the south side. Here's the current zoning showing that's MR 16 and with some R17 to the east and some neighborhood commercial close by. The proposed Ledger Cove Apartments, here's the overall site plan, is 228 rental properties with townhomes and apartments on 15.98 acres. Of the 228 units, 108 are apartment dwellings and 120 are townhome dwellings. The proposed plan meets setback, parking, architecture, and amenity requirements. There are some issues that staff has discovered with landscaping and fencing. Previously, they were not discovered, but with further review, there are a few tweaks that should be made. Here's the unit summary for the development, showing that there's 26 buildings and 228 units with the different types of units and apartments. And here is the parking. There's a requirement for 333 parking stalls, and the site plan provides 358. Half of the required parking is covered according to code. The site plan proposes amenities of 1,000 square foot outside covered social area or a pavilion, 3 pickleball courts, 1 with seating, a swimming pool area, a 2,800 square foot clubhouse, and a tot lot. The landscaping is approximately 170,000 square feet, or 26% of the total site. The city requirement is at least 25%, and of this landscaping, between 25% and 75% of the landscaping needs to be playable surface. The application states that only 8% is playable surface area when the code requires at least 25%. Landscaping along the front, the street frontage, and in front of the apartment buildings and townhomes contains the required amount, size, and classification of trees and shrubs. Here are a number of elevation drawings for the clubhouse and the different building types, like building A, B, C, D, and E, those are for the apartments. And then have the elevation drawings for the townhomes with the 4-unit, 6-unit. And then there's a 3-unit with no garage, an 8-unit with no garage, and a 5-unit with no garage. And then another tweak is the perimeter fence detail. The code requires that there be a maximum spacing of 10 feet between pillars or columns. And right now it's calling for like 18 feet, so that's probably a fairly easy fix. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions. The general conditions that we have for all approvals, they meet all the codes and public works requirements. The conditions of the site plan trying to show greater compliance with the at least 25% of the landscaping be playable surface, whereas right now they're only showing 8%. And then the condition that the perimeter fence shown needs to have a maximum spacing between columns or piers of 10 feet. And then the other requirement be that all floor plans need to be shown and meet the code requirements. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to address those at this time. And I believe the representatives of the applicant are here as well.
Thank you, Kent. Any questions for staff on this item? Okay, I've got one. In my view, the site plan reviews should be simple yes, no's based on whether it's meeting all the requirements. And so I'm confused by the gray area of the landscaping. So it seems to me that if it meets the requirements, then we approve it. If it doesn't meet it, we don't approve it, because the gap between that 25% or the 8% or the 18% seems like that should be something that we should see on the site plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the deal?
Well, we should have caught it earlier. This has been in the review for quite some time, and some staff haven't seen that in the past, and with all the details, it's easy to overlook, but it's no excuse for missing it at the same time.
Chairman?
So I guess my worry is that seems to me to be a significant enough change that I don't. Go ahead, Andrew.
So you are exactly correct. When we present a site plan to the Planning Commission, you should have the expectation that everything complies with the code. I view the site plan application and your review a little differently. Occasionally, staff misses something. And it's happened to me quite a few times in the past. I forget a monument sign, or maybe they didn't have enough brick on their building. And you don't catch that until you're making the presentation for the Planning Commission. To me, that's a safeguard in that the Planning Commission can back staff up to make sure that ordinance or that site plan complies with the ordinance. That way you can approve it with conditions, and the staff will ensure that it meets those conditions. But you're absolutely correct. When we bring it to you, you should have the expectation that it meets the code. The problem with this particular ordinance that Kent's discussing is the code is vague. What comprises playable surface? If they have sod areas, okay, let's say they have, I don't know how much sod area they have as part of their landscaping, but let's assume that 50% of their 25% is grass. That's playable surface. They could have a tot lot with mulched rubber, shredded rubber tires. That's playable surface. So the issue comes down to, how do we define playable surface? The ordinance does not clearly define that. So maybe in this situation, the Planning Commission can look and say, they've got 25% of their landscaping is sodded areas, therefore it's playable surface, and it complies.
Chair.
Occasionally staff misses one. In Kent's defense, though, he came into this project midway. Jared reviewed it first, and then Jared left, and Kent kind of took it up. So I'm glad he caught these things.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call you out, Kent, by any means. I'm just trying to understand what our role is. And
Yeah, it was previously approved by staff, and then I caught that issue. But I did a rough calculation of what I thought would be playable surface, and I was coming up with 18%.
Okay.
So
does that include the pickleball courts too? Because that's obviously playable.
yes, yeah.
an 18 to 25, with 25 is sod, that's not, my concern was that the difference was so vast that it would require some readjustment of some of the things in the site plan.
Gotcha.
If it's something that is doable without a whole lot of moving things around, that's a lot more reasonable.
And honestly, some folks would consider paved streets playable surface, so.
So does the pool count as playable surface? The surface area of the water?
The surface area of the water?
Isn't that a pool right here?
Swimming pool.
Yes, I counted the pool area, including the water area, as playable surface.
Okay, any other questions for staff on this one? Okay, though it's not a public hearing, I'm going to give you a minute. The applicant is here, and so if you want to talk to us for just a minute, we'll let that happen tonight.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I apologize, I hadn't been caught. We've been working on this project for close to a year, if not over. Some things that we did do, I want to point out, I don't know if they were counted. In our townhomes, what we wanted to provide for amenity and make it more of a community is if you look in the backyard, and I don't know if they counted it, we actually fenced off a little bit of the backyard so you could put a barbecue back there, that sort of thing. We appreciate all the help staff's been. We've done quite a bit of work in Tooele City, and we're just, we don't know what to do. We just barely found out about this a day or two ago ourselves, and we've been working on this a long time, and legitimately hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in engineering and architectural and everything else. So we would just ask for your help and recommendation and anything we can do. We're excited about the project. So,
Okay,
Question?
thanks.
thank you.
Wait.
Go, before you go.
So the columns being 18 feet, you can, is that
Oh, that's not
a
an issue
fix?
at all.
Okay, and how about the floor plans being shown for the table?
Yeah, we have no problem doing that.
Okay, so
Right.
we're just working on
Show
playable
space.
space.
Yes, correct. And another thing we did do too, just so you guys know, is if you look at the zoning, and Andrew, please correct me if I'm wrong, it counts for 16 units to the acre. We're far below 16 units to the acre. We're not trying to maximize density. We're trying to do a really good project. Again, and I know we have gone through a few planners, but just was completely caught off guard by this, so your help would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Page.
The area between the townhomes, I did not use that in my calculation as playable, but that could,
Bring us up a
That
little.
might bring us up.
yeah, that might be
Actually
significant.
considerably.
The other question you may want to ask is, do we want to consider the little private yard spaces as playable area? Again, the ordinance doesn't define what is playable area. So if they have a small patio in the back that's fenced in, and the child can go outside and play,
In my mind, I see it as playable area.
Yeah, I think we could work with the, I think we could work with the applicant. I'd be interested to know how they came up with the calculation of 8%.
Okay. And I'm guessing it's perfectly within our purview to approve the site plan with the conditions listed in the staff report. And You guys
Absolutely.
work it out.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I could
Andrew.
also state, Chair, just if you're not comfortable making an approval, you could table it and pending for the next meeting, and
Bring
you
back.
can resolve that with the applicant as well. I know the Planning Commission is hesitant to table items, but that's always a tool in your belt as well.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, someone want to make a motion
I'll
on
make
this?
a motion.
Commissioner Hammer.
I move we approve the site plan design review request by Howard Schmidt representing Ledger Cover LLC to be located near the intersection of 1000 North and Franks Drive, application number 23-576, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated May 9th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve the site plan review by Commissioner Hammer, seconded by Commissioner Anderson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll take this to a vote. Commissioner Hammer.
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett. Aye. Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That is approved, 6-0. Next on the agenda, decision on a preliminary plat request by Dave Irving, representing Zenith Development for the Lex Townhomes at the southwest corner of 1300 North and 680 West. Mr. Page.
Here's an aerial view. And right now, it's amending a one-lot subdivision with the proposal of making it 13 townhome residential lots. Here's the current zoning of MR 16. And this is the preliminary plan showing the 13 lots. It's on approximately 1.29 acres. Its location is 1255 North, 680 West. This preliminary plan is amending Lot 105 of Lexington at Overlake subdivision, which is a one-lot subdivision, and dividing it into 13 townhome lots, 1 common area, and 2 limited common areas. Public improvements were already addressed and dedicated with Lot 105 townhomes at Lexington at Overlake. Excuse me, it's amending the Lot 105 of Lexington and Overlake subdivision. So these public improvements are already taken care of. Staff recommends approval with the following general conditions that we have for about all planning, their preliminary plans. You know, they're subject to all the square footage in the areas, all the city codes and public works policies, and fire department regulations. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address those at this time.
Thank you, Kent. Any questions for staff on this item?
Just one quick one. Is it just a continuation of what's already in place down there?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Proctor.
I move we approve the preliminary subdivision plan for Lot 105 townhomes of Lexington and Overlake requested by Building Dynamics application number 2025-030 based on findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated May 9th, 2025.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Proctor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hamilton. Any discussion on that motion? If not, we'll take that to a vote. Commissioner Hammer.
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett.
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That is approved 6-0. Next on the agenda are city council reports. Councilmember Manzione, welcome. It's all you.
Thanks. Hello, commissioners. I have just a couple of things from note from our last city council meeting. I always feel very even shorter than I am when I stand here at this thing. Sorry.
It is what it is.
That's what it is.
Still have a stool for you at my shop.
Couple of things. So we did approve the residential service district zoning ordinance requested by Perry Homes. So that was approved at our meeting. We adopted a tentative budget we just do a tentative one and then we'll do the real one in June with no tax increase. So you can share that with your friends. And then we talked about, when we approved the installation of a traffic signal at 2000 North and Aaron Drive there by the hospital in Maverick. So those were the big items at our meeting. Do you have any questions about those? Any other questions?
No. Guess not.
Okay.
You get off easy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the review and decision on the minutes for the meeting held on April 23rd, 2025. Any corrections or edits for those minutes?
I move that we approve minutes as written.
Move to approve by Commissioner Proctor, seconded by Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. Those minutes are approved 6-0. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.